Well, hello everybody, welcome back to the channel and welcome to episode 41 of Project LS400. This episode I want to finish something that I started in this episode, namely the broken headlight washers. It's been a while since I last worked on the car, so let's get it uncovered and let's get you up to speed. Two things. One, I will include chapters in the video so you can skip ahead if you want, and two, roll intro. Yeah, it's been a while since we heard that intro, and by the way I should update the footage in that intro with new images of Project LS400. So as I mentioned, I haven't done much work the last few months on the LS, but that doesn't mean that I haven't been working on Lexuses. In the last video you saw me working on the Toyota Celsius gauge cluster. And yeah, I've been doing a lot of repairs. A lot of people send their electronics in, especially ECUs. And yeah, through the channel I've contacted a lot of new friends. And I think it's time to mention them. First and foremost, Joe from Atlanta, who's been a loyal supporter of the channel for ages while I'm looking for my broomstick. And then of course there is Mike from the UK, Costel from Romania, Juhani from Finland, Nicola from Croatia. I'm forgetting a few, but I want to thank you for contacting me. Your support has really been helpful, and hopefully I've been able to help some of you out with information. Broomstick. So as I said, I've done a lot of electronics repairs and I really try to get that business going because on a small personal update, my health hasn't been great. I have a lot of neurological and cognitive errors, and that really hinders me in doing my job. But when I start working with my hands on my workbench, I can patiently work for hours and hours, and that's really helpful when you're doing electronic repairs. So in this episode I want to fix the headlight washers. Oh, I have the hood up, but let me show you what's the problem here. So those headlight washers were optional on some LS400s, not all of them have them, and I noticed one of two isn't working, and I first need to remember which one it was, and for that I need to get into the car, put the lights on, and there we go, now we know it. So now we established that the right hand side headlight washer isn't working. We can fix this. So I had this issue with my very first LS400 where both of the headlight washers didn't work. I pulled off the bumper, I checked everything and it seemed to be working fine. Then I found the cause. That car once had a damage repair, so they took the front bumper off, it was repainted, put everything back together. There are two check valves in that system, and the issue is that the arrow on the check valve doesn't indicate the flow direction. It goes into the opposite, in the blocking position. And I think I have this issue with this car. I'm not sure if the bumper has been off, but we're gonna look into that. And while I'm at it, I want to take the headlights off because they're in a little bit crooked. These are not flush. There is a bump over here and here it sits flush. Gonna open up the hood once more, and after a while the gas struts will hold and I can do it without my broomstick. Let me show you how the headlights sit so you have an idea what I'm talking about. So if you look up here, you have the adjusters for the headlights over here. There are some bolts in between here that you can access, but if you look up close you can see there is quite a large gap, and these European headlights consist of two parts, but this is an additional high beam. It has a long reach, and in other markets it consists of one part of glass. Very much different versions of this, but over here, not sure if the gap shows, there is a little gap over here. And on the other side you also have this little overlap there, and I want to make that flush again while I'm at it. And another reason that I want to remove the bumper is that in front of the left front wheel is the EVAP system, and that EVAP system can also be the cause of the hesitation under acceleration issues that I experience. So when I have the bumper off, I can also access that and check that. Truth be told, I don't even know in what order I need to take this off, so in order not to provide you wrong information, I think I'll put the workshop manual in screen and show you where all the bolts are that you need to remove. So you probably see me remove things that I don't actually need to remove, but there it is. So here's the headlight assembly. Comes in one bracket. Maybe I can make the adjustments that I want while I'm at it, while I have this apart. See, you know, so there's a lot of play in there. But on the back here is this little motor, and it has this very weird connector that seems to be, sanded off. It looks very odd. Can I show you a little bit closer up on camera? This section over here, it seems to be sanded off, but it's normal for these cars. And there's this flat connector for the adjuster motor. That took 2 hours. Oh, I also think about taking the fog lights off and giving them a thorough cleaning while we're at it. They're mounted in a bracket that's held onto the car by 2 nuts, if I can find it. And there we have it. And this is the fog light assembly, held in place, 2 nuts, one here, one there, onto the bumper mount. Okay, for all of you Lexus nerds, let's have a close-up look on the washer system. So the washer fluid tank is in front of the left front wheel, and over here is the pump for the windscreen washers, and over here is an additional pump for the headlight washers. There is the line going upward, comes out here just in front of that little fuse box, and it splits to the left washer, which is a real short line. It's all the way the aluminium bumper to the right headlight, and just for the dryer of the air conditioning system is the other outlet. And as I said, there are 2 check valves in this system. One is leaking, so I'm gonna fix that. And while I'm at it, I'm gonna take this whole mess home, clean everything, give it a good once over, so we have as new parts when we install it back onto the car. So for those of you who are wondering what lives inside of the headlight washer, here's your answer. So this one is still is assembled again. I took them apart and washed them in the ultrasonic cleaner. This is the underside. You can see 2 screws, and when you unscrew them you can get the cover off. The covers, by the way, are different left and right, so they are not interchangeable. So if you take them off, note which side goes where, otherwise it won't fit nice on your bumper. But anyway, this is the inside of the washer itself. This is where the water hose connects. And over here is the actual nozzle. And the nozzle is adjustable, by the way. I didn't know that, but it had a very specific shape, and you can tilt it up and down a little bit. There is a sort of a swivel in there, same as you have with windscreen washers. So I adjusted them a little bit so they aim a little bit higher up to the lens of the headlight, and it's also accessible from the top. I have to find the right light here. There's a little bit of glare, but you can see that lower slot. You can fit a small screwdriver in there. I must say it's quite stiff, so you have to apply some force and you have to be careful not to bend the plastic. But anyway, they are adjustable. I also brought the bumper over to give it a good clean, so it's outside here, and I took the inner foam piece out. It's right over here. You can see these are the cutouts for the indicator. There's the bumper, and this is how the washers sit on the inside of the bumper. So there is this sliding clip over there that you can pull out, and then you can remove the washer itself. Slight change of plan, folks. I said in the introduction that I wanted to finish the broken headlight washers in this episode. Well, the way that I fixed a broken check valve would mean it would work, but I decided to order a new one because they are quite inexpensive, and I ordered some other parts, and my friend Francesco, aka Frank from Spain, helped me a great deal. We put the order together this morning, and it will take a week and a half, maybe 2 weeks before the parts arrive. So then I have 2 correct check valves in the headlight washer system. So that means, and I want to have this video out, that I won't put everything back together. However, as I also said in the introduction, there's another thing that I want to tackle to investigate the hesitation under acceleration issue. And for that I want to check the EVAP system. Now, a little introduction in the EVAP system. It's a system that became mandatory in the 1980s to prevent fuel fumes to leak out of the car. Before we had those systems, on warmer days the fuel would vaporize in a tank, would build up pressure and would just breathe out into the atmosphere. And I've been told that on warmer days, in those times when you were on a parking lot, it was warm, it was one big stench of vaporizing fuel in the air, and that's not only unhealthy but it's also quite unsafe. So legislators made the systems mandatory. Now it's a fully closed system. When the fuel filter cap is on, it can breathe in, so air can get in to prevent vacuum from forming, but you can get fumes out. Those fumes are catched via a line into a charcoal canister that lives behind the washer fluid tank, and it's filled with charcoal and it fills up with those fumes, and every now and then it's released via a line into the intake manifold, and those valves that you have over here control the EVAP canister to purge into the intake manifold. That system only works when the engine is up to operating temperature, and it's in that area where this system works that the car has those hesitation issues. Not sure what happens, but it does feed the fumes back in behind the airflow sensor, the air volume sensor, and the throttle valve in there. So you have a sort of what we call false air, and that may be the cause of my problem. And while I have everything off, I just want to check the system. I want to learn how it works on the LS400, and I just want to check if there are any leaks or any vacuum leaks in there. So the first thing I'm going to do is drain the washer fluid tank, take it off, and then we'll take the EVAP system off. Hopefully bolts are not too rusty. And hopefully everything will drain out of this little connector over here. Have to be careful because these old rubber lines have become so brittle. Well, while the final drops are dripping out, I'm gonna remove the connectors. That's one. There it is. The washer fluid tank is held in place with 3 nuts, one here, one there, and on the back is another one. And with that, the tank should be loose. And there's this connector for the fluid sensor, fluid level sensor that needs to come off. That one's loose. And there we have it. That's the entire washer fluid tank out. I'm going to take this home and I'm going to clean it. Now we have a clear view onto this EVAP canister, and it's held in place with a bracket, and there are 2 nuts on either side. On top are two lines that are connected, and on the bottom here it's pretty hard to see from that perspective, but there's another line leading to a sort of unit that sits below the radiator. Anyway, I'm gonna take a picture, so I'm not going to mix up those two lines. Maybe it doesn't matter much, but I'm gonna take a picture so I know how everything went together. I'm gonna take it off and then have a closer look if we have any cracks in this pot over here. That would cause false air to draw into the engine, so I'm gonna take it off and give it a closer inspection. So this is the canister itself. It has two lines and it's also written on top. This one goes to the tank, so this is the fuel vapors coming from the tank leading into the canister, and this line, it says purge. Maybe you can even read it, not sure. Yeah, and in the bottom there seems to be some sort of an overflow, I'm not sure. But anyway, these lines are not controlled via a solenoid or a valve on the canister itself. That's all done on the car, on the engine block. And I want to show you that too, so you have a little bit of an idea how this works on an LS400. So the purge line from the EVAP canister runs along this line over the left hand side cylinder bank, crosses underneath here where the spark plug leads all are, and it comes up here via this line all the way back to this last solenoid valve over here. It's just a simple open and close valve, and then it goes along here, these nice lines over here, to this port marked P for purge. And every now and then when the canister is full, and it doesn't monitor it but it's triggered automatically, this solenoid will open and it will purge the fuel vapors into the intake plenum where it's completely burned in the engine itself. And it's a very simple system, and that's how it works. Well, this is the entire assembly disassembled, and this is how far I can get. So it's a steel canister and there's a little hole in the bottom. When you push it in, that little black stuff that you see is sort of a foam. And on top there are two lines, and this is as far as I can disassemble it. Not sure if I can unscrew this. There seems to be a little gasket underneath there, so I will try to get my vice grips and see if I can loosen it, because I'm really curious to see what lives inside. Maybe it's saturated, it shouldn't be possible, but maybe it is. But coming to think of it, I'm not sure how it will explain the hesitation under acceleration issue. The worst thing that could happen is that we have a leak in the system, but that leak has to occur after it passes that valve and runs into here. And I really do need to check these lines, because they have become, as you can see, quite loose, so I may need to replace them. And I had planned to buy a roll of that vacuum line, but anyway, just to fill my curiosity, we'll try to take this further apart. Well, I put everything back together. I didn't want to break it open just to see what lives inside. What I did find is that the vapor line running into the canister was clogged, and well, I blew it through and now it can breathe freely. Not sure what happened, but I cannot imagine that this may have caused the problems that I have under acceleration with the car. But anyway, I put it back together, but at least now we know what we can check about this. And I think the one thing that you can check for if you have any issues is any clogging. There is a valve in here, and when the valve is clogged, the system doesn't work as it's supposed. Many people do delete these things, but I don't have any issues with it, and I want to keep the car original, so this goes back into the car. On to the next project. The very last thing that I want to tackle in this episode is the radio, and to cut a 6-week-long story very short, I took out the original radio of my Lexus and I found something that may cause the stereo reception to go mono constantly. But the problem is there is a daughter board soldered on the main circuit board of the radio. It's pretty hard to get off. I tried to fix it, but I ended up with a non-working radio, had no reception whatsoever. So I kind of destroyed it, and I only have myself to blame. So I do want to have an original radio in the car that works. So what I did, I bought one off of eBay, and the seller was very speedy and very correct, I must say. So thanks Joram from Bulgaria. The only thing is, the radio that he sold me is from a right-hand drive version of the car, so it's exactly mirrored. So let them put them together so you can see, not exactly lined up, but anyway, you get the deal. This is mirrored, and I do want to keep the left-hand drive version. So what I did, I opened up the radio, and I was pretty sure this was the case, but the circuit boards in here are exactly the same. I'll put a picture in screen. And if I'm not mistaken, it's just a matter of changing out the front panels, and then my new radio, I already tested it, should work in my car. And the only thing that you need to do is to remove 3 screws on either side. There are 2 tiny little screws on top, and then there is this flat cable, so you lift up the connector. This is the connector in here. You can lift it up and then pull it out. So I'm going to change the front end, and then I'm going to test it, and hopefully this will work. Well, I plugged in the radio, I started it, the antenna came out, and listen, there it is. Put a little bit extra light on there, but it's working, everything is working. Only thing is, this radio also doesn't have stereo reception, but at least I do have the antenna amplifier in there, and someone pointed out, that someone is Juhani from Finland, pointed out that better install it at the antenna itself in the back, but at least I have a working radio again. Thank God. So it is possible to buy just a radio from the internet for a right-hand drive version, and then swap the front panel over, and everything is hunky-dory. Success. Sorry folks, sorry for breaking the promise in the introduction that I would fix the headlight washers in this episode. But as soon as I found out that these things are very simple and fairly cheap to replace, I decided to replace the broken one. It's cheap to replace thanks to the help of my friend Francesco in Spain. So Frank, thank you very much. But we learned a couple of things about this system, how to check it, where the components are, and that these check valves are accessible by taking the headlights out, so you don't have to remove the entire front bumper. So you now know what to do, and by opening one up, know what's inside, and that this rubber membrane that's inside can deteriorate, and that will cause these things to leak. So if your headlight washers don't work and the car starts dripping from the bumper itself, from behind the headlight washers, you now know where the fault is. Last thing, we also know that we can change the radio front, and we have a working radio again. So I call this a win-win situation. I didn't solve all the issues with the car, at least I didn't complete the job, but we learned a lot in this episode. At least I did, and hopefully you learned something too. Anyway, that's it for this episode. If you want to help support the channel, you can do so by buying me a coffee, and I will leave the link for that down below in the description box. For now, I would like to thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye!